Okay, welcome everyone. I'm gonna put the chat over here and we'll go ahead and get started. It is 11:01. Um, I was just chatting with Susie before before you all knocked on the waiting room door. Um, this is something that I've never done before. So we're going to see how it goes. We're going to kind of try to work through this together. And my intention here is to give you lots of time to do searching, to do thinking and mapping and planning. So less time for me to talk and more time to just kind of work through it. That's our plan. Okay, so I'm gonna close my, no. Um, okay. Okay. Yeah, welcome everyone. This is called Blueprint for Success, Planning Your Course with OER. I am Sally Potter and I am the OER coordinator at Fresno City College. This is what we're gonna do today. This is our plan anyway. Just really briefly talk about reasons why you might want to plan your course, do a course map or a course plan when you're using OER. We're going to talk about how to align your objectives and your SLOs with your your OER materials. And then I have a document that I'm going to give you. It's called a course planner. So we'll take a look at that and kind of guide you through it and then talk about what you can do from there. So we only have an hour today, so we're, not going to have time to go through a whole entire course, but I'm hoping that you can kind of get started on the process with one of the objectives or outcomes or SLOs from your course. Okay. So really quickly, let me just, tell you about what we mean when we say OER. These are materials that are openly licensed. They have a particular license on them and they are free. Usually they're digital materials. They can be printed in some cases. These are materials that you are, for the most part, you're able to make edits, make changes, take a chapter from this source, a couple of chapters from this source, maybe even a few pages from another source, and what we call is remix them. So kind of mix them together. This really is ideal for, providing your students equitable and accessible courses. So, we know that the high cost of textbooks is a barrier for a lot of students. So when you can reduce or eliminate the cost of your textbook of your course, then students are just automatically going to do better. They're going to have an easier time in your course. That makes it more accessible to students. It also provides students with probably in most cases more higher quality materials because the materials are going to be more aligned with your COR, with your course outline of record. And so you can choose, instead of being tied to one single textbook, a commercial textbook that you have your students buy, you can choose the exact information that you want to present to them, according to your discipline expertise in the course that you're teaching. I also want to tell you about zero textbook cost materials. So when we're talking about OER, we're talking about the license of the material, but there are other types of materials that you can provide for your students that aren't necessarily considered OERs or openly licensed. So anything that you can give to your students, that legally, that's free of charge, that aren't OER, those are typically known as zero textbook cost materials. Anything that you can get from the library that your students have access to in the library, um, those can be given to your students through either linking or providing a PDF of that in your Canvas shell. So, really thinking about the massive amount of materials that are in our library databases, that any of that information can be given to students for your course. There's also, depending on what discipline you teach, depending on what course you teach, any information that you can give from websites, from free websites. Um, you have to be careful because anybody can publish anything online. So some of the stuff is not really high quality, but there are lots of materials out there that are professional, and you can either link to them, or in some cases you can copy and paste the text and provide the URL citation for those. And that is, if it is free online, that is legal to provide to your students that way. Um, Also, some programs purchase class sets of materials. This is a little more rare, but sometimes we have um, grant money where we can purchase a class set, and that can be for a whole program or for a course. And then the other final category is any course materials that are written by you. So we're all in our Canvas, in our handouts that we provide students for every course, we are writing, essay prompts, we're writing tests, we're writing, little instructions, little things that give like maybe an article a context. All of that is information that you are writing that you're providing for your students free of charge. So just, kind of think about the different possibilities and the different ways that you can provide your students with a free course that is that's going to be accessible to them. Okay. Now let's talk about intentional planning, intentional OER planning. So sometimes this is called backward design, when you start with looking at your course outline of record, and you look at the things that you need to teach your students, and then you plan from there. This assures that your what you're teaching and what your course outline of record says aligns if you actually make a map. So I often tell this story when I do OER workshops, and maybe a lot of you have had this same experience. When I first started teaching, which was over 20 years ago, I didn't really have any experience. I didn't really know what I was doing. My only experience was really being a college student. So, the first class that I had actually was here at Fresno City College. It was before I even graduated with my master's degree. And they were, that's back when they were doing interns. They were desperate for people. The chair of the department at the time just gave me a textbook and said, here, this is a textbook that you should use. And so I just started teaching the class. We started with chapter 1. We went through chapter 1, finished it, then chapter 2, and then so on. Every time there was, we got through about 3 or 4 chapters, I gave a test on the information. And then we just did that until we ran out of weeks in the semester. Um, it wasn't until later that I started really having to pay attention to what was actually on the course outline of record. When a few years later, we really started focusing on student learning outcomes and assessments for the student learning outcomes, and making sure that what we're teaching actually is what we're supposed to be teaching, according to our COR. So at that point, I'm looking at my COR, and I'm realizing that there are a lot of topics, or quite a few topics, that I'm supposed to be covering that are not in this textbook that I'm giving my students. So at that point, now I have to find supplementary articles to fill in the gaps to make sure that they're getting everything that they need. And so I start moving away from using the textbook as much and using more of these supplementary materials. But now, then at that point, I'm finding that I'm not really using a lot of the textbook. Maybe I'm only using half of the textbook. And so I feel guilty because I'm making my students buy this $65 textbook when we're really only, using maybe half of it. And so then, the inclination is to just give them assignments, make them do readings, give them assessments on material that we really don't need to be giving them, we really don't need to be covering in the class, but I just felt guilty for making them buy this book and I wanted to make them feel like they're getting their money's worth. So, at that point, I realized, okay, I am giving my students more work. I'm giving myself more grading work. I shouldn't be doing this, and it just for no reason. So once I kind of made the change to using OER materials and ZTC materials, what I was able to do is cover fewer topics in the class because I'm only following my COR, and we're able to spend more time on each of those topics, which means that we can go deeper into those topics. We can cover them for a longer period of time and get to the more interesting stuff instead of just, you know, barely covering like, one topic per week or every couple weeks. So this idea of making a map for your course really is going to help you to look at what are the gaps that you're not covering from your COR. What are some things that you're maybe covering too much or maybe that you shouldn't be covering? And then as you kind of go through and continue to do this process, there might be a topic that you are covering, but you just found this article and it's not the best, but it'll do for now. And then you can make that a priority for, okay, next time I teach this class, I'm going to look for more materials. I'm going to look for better materials. And so this is the idea of having a continuous improvement throughout your course as you're teaching it throughout the semesters. Okay. So this is kind of the idea or like the flow chart that we want to look at. You start with your course objectives. And so that means looking at the course outline of record and what you want your students to learn. And then you look at your SLOs and your assessments that you're giving. So those could be the big, SLOs, the final exam, the midterm exam, but it could also be the smaller assessments that you're doing throughout the course. And thinking about, how you're going to measure if the students learned that course material or not. Okay, what are the ways that you measure that? And then once you think about those assessments, now you're looking for your materials. Now you're trying to find the materials, the articles, the textbook chapters, the videos, any of those materials that that you're going to give to your students so that they will be able to pass and succeed on your assessments. So that's kind of the thinking here. And this is called backward design, where you're starting with your outcomes, and then you go through the process and you end up with the materials at the end. Okay. Okay, so at this point, I will give you this PowerPoint so you have all the links. But what I want to do now is take a look at a couple of documents. So let me put a couple of documents here in the chat for you. And the first one is a document that has links on it. And I know a couple of you were here on Tuesday when Linda and I did the How to OER, the hands-on guide. So this is almost the same list. I don't think I really made any changes to it, but go ahead and open that up and then we'll take a look at that. And then the other thing that I'm going to put in is the planning sheet. So let me find that. Okay, here it is right here. Oh, open. Let me close it up. Later. Okay. Okay. So if you could open up both of these documents and let me get them for you here. Okay, here we go. Okay, so I have this links for how to OER workshop in front of me. Can someone give me the confirmation that you can see this, that I'm sharing it?
I
Okay,
can
thank
see
you.
it, but I'm still downloading. Oh, okay, never mind.
Okay, yeah. Okay. Yeah, so let me just explain what this is. Um, so at the top, I have the links for the 4 colleges Curricunet sites. So what you should start with is if these are at Reedley, Fresno, and Clovis. These can be found on the website. Madera, I don't think that this is on Madera's website, but I was able to get the link. So go ahead and let's start there. You can open up your dashboard for Curricunet. So that's the first thing that we're going to do. Okay. Um, so let me show you. This is what Fresno Cities looks like. And the first thing that we're going to do is to um, find a course. So what you want to do is just type the name of a course that you teach. And I teach EMLS, so I'm going to type EMLS 168 RW. On this, you have to type it exactly. It has to be exactly perfect. This is not like Google. It's not intuitive. So if you, for example, if you don't leave a space here, or if you put a dash here, at least for Fresno City colleges, the results will not come up. So this can be a little bit tricky. So you type your name of your course and then hit search. And then a few results are going to pop up. And what you want to find is the one that is active. And so I'm going to open up the reports, and the one that I want to find is the course outline of record. So I'm going to open that up, and then it's just a PDF. And this has all the information for my course. So let me just stop right here and let everybody get a chance to catch up. And I can go through those steps again if you need me to. Just let me know. And then I think maybe at least one person came in a little late. I'm going to put the links document in the chat in case you did not see that. Okay, so let me know either in the chat or by unmuting if you need more time to find your COR. And Kenneth, you probably do, since I think I just gave you yeah, okay.
Could you go through, show us one more time?
Yeah, yeah. So you're gonna take that, let's see here, um, so you're gonna take the link that is here in this document. And so you'll choose the college, and then that should open up something that looks kind of like this. Now I'm logged in. If you don't need to be logged in, you can find these things as a guest. But what you want to do is find a search button, and then that should open up a search, and then you're going to type in the name of the course. So for example, it might be English, um, C1000, and then you want to hit the search button. Okay. And so then you're going to look for, because a few um, results come up. So you want to look for one that is active. Okay. That's the one that is the legal one that we're working off of right now, the one that's active. And then you go to reports, this little drop down menu, and you're going to just open your course outline of record. And then that opens it up for you right here. Okay. Okay. So let me just go ahead and show you what you can look at to find your objectives. So as you scroll down, and I think the other colleges probably have a different order, or they might have some slightly different terms. This is what Fresno City's looks like. So you can look for objectives, and these are all the things that you should be teaching in your course. Eventually, you'll want to map to all of them. Today, we're going to start by just doing one of them. So take a look at these objectives, and the one that I'm going to work with is this one right here. Accurately apply grammatical structures and self-editing strategies within the writing process. So that's the one that I'm going to focus on right now to start off with. You could also um, scroll down and look at the course content. This is a little broader. It has a little bit different information, but this still is going to be things that you need to teach. So if you're not seeing something in those objectives, you can look at the course content. And then another thing that you can do is look at your student learning outcomes. These would be the big, most broad things that you want to teach that in your course that you want to be able to measure. So you can pull from any and all of those. But yeah, it's, typically we start with objectives. Okay. Okay, so once you have your objective, then we're going to start working with the planner. Let me once again put that planning worksheet in the chat for anyone who didn't. And I've already posted this for those of you that were here at the beginning. I've already posted this, but this document right here is what we're going to be working with today. So what I'm going to do is I'm taking this objective and I am going to copy it, and then I'm going to come down here in my planning worksheet and I'm going to paste it. And then, starting off with, if I'm looking at my objectives, what I want to do is I want to make sure that I'm covering, everything that's in my course, as much as I possibly can. So, you're not going to need to cover every single thing that's in the course content, but you want to try to hit as many of these objectives as possible. And again, we're just starting today. Okay, so once we get there, then we're going to try to think about, okay, let's go back to our steps here. Okay, so once we get our course objectives, we think about, one single course objective. This is what we want students to learn. When students walk away from our class, this is what they're going to to have learned. Um, so now what I need to do is to write some notes here. This part is kind of like in a paragraph form. You can make bullet points, you can just make notes about, what are the ways that you would measure it. Okay, so what are some things that you could do in your course to ensure that the students have learned this? So when I take a look at this, okay, so what do I do to ensure that my students have accurately applied grammatical structures and self-editing strategies within the writing process? So, one of the obvious things that we all do in this course is we have them write essays, okay? 2 to 3 page academic essays with citations. So that's one of the things that I'm going to do. I'll also do some peer editing exercises. I'll do some, grammar lessons on certain topics. I will have students use a, checklist to do self-editing of their own writing. I might do some shorter grammar lessons. I might do some shorter writing where I give them extensive feedback, grammar feedback on their writing. So those are all the kinds of things that I might do. So I'm going to make notes here on that. Let me give you just about 5 minutes, and I'm going to set my timer. Susie, you don't need to do it for me. But I'm going to set a timer for 5 minutes and let you think about that and start taking some notes. Um, Kenneth, are you talking about from Curricunet?
Yeah, I logged in through the link through the website that you gave, and I'm able to find the course, but I don't see the download the document. I missed that step. Yes, right there.
So, yeah, so can you find this?
Yes,
Yeah, and then you want to choose course outline report.
got it. Thank you.
And
Appreciate it.
yeah, no problem. Okay, I'm going to stop you, and I know that that is not nearly enough time to really kind of get your head around, the outcomes of your course, choosing an outcome. But what I do want to do right now is make sure that we have enough time to do some searching for materials. So, you can scroll down in this document and kind of think about what are some of the um, instructional materials that you are looking for? What is your course going to require? What is your, like ideal situation that you're going to be looking for? So are you looking for like a one core textbook? Are you looking for just some different articles or reading content? Videos, maybe you need videos, maybe you need those ancillary materials, they're called, problems, quizzes, assessments, PowerPoints, even sometimes they're called ancillaries. If you teach a discipline that has a lab, are you looking for lab books, simulations, kind of that kind of thing? Any, like case studies, data sets, thinking about exactly what you're looking for. Okay. And then what we're going to do now is to go back to that, the document that, hopefully everybody has this one right here. Um,
Yes.
okay. So what I'm going to suggest that you start with is the OERI website. If you already have, if you were here on Tuesday or in any of the previous workshops, either this week or prior, and you have an OER material that you're already working with, go ahead and open that up, take a look at that. But if you don't have one and you need to find one, this is a good guide, and I would suggest that you start in order. So start with the OERI website. Let me open that up and really quickly show you, it's a little hidden. When you kind of hover over resources, then you can go to the collections, and that's going to take you to a page. The best way, the thing that I've had the best luck on is searching by discipline. So once you click discipline, then you're just going to scroll down and you're going to look for your discipline. So I'm looking for OER for ESL. So I will click into that. Now, not every discipline is listed here. And so if you are not finding your discipline here, then maybe you need to do a little more searching. It might be a little more challenging for you to find something, but just go down that list on the Word document and just go repository by repository to see what you can find. Okay, so ESL resources are listed by level. So I know that my course I'm looking for is one level below transfer. And so what I'm going to do is open up this first one right here. This is actually written by Rebecca Alhader, who is an ESL instructor over at Reedley College. And our program uses this document. It's a fantastic document. So I'm gonna open it up. And this is the book right here. This is it. Now, this textbook that Rebecca has written is really designed for an advanced grammar course. It's not designed for my course that I'm looking for, which is a reading and writing course. Now, obviously, if you know anything about teaching writing, especially to English learners, you've got to address grammar at some point. So I wouldn't be able to, if I was looking for materials for a grammar course, I could just use this book, and that's it, and maybe supplement here and there, but this will be my main text. But that's not what I have going on. So let's see. Oh, that's a good question, Julia. Hang on just a second. So what I'm going to do is go down and just kind of, browse through it, search through it, and see if there's anything that I can possibly use. So that's what I would encourage you to do right now. I'll give you a few minutes to do that, but let me just answer your question, Julia. The way that I first started using OER materials was in my Linguistics 10 course. And I started to supplement more and more, make my own assignments, write my own assignments, find articles from websites, which I want to mention right here. If you cannot find anything right now on the OERI website or any of the other repositories right now, one thing that you can do is just do a Google search and just Google and see if you can find a decent article. You may or may not be able to find something that you can use, but it's kind of a good practice. There's a lot of good material that we can find free online. And, depending on how technical your course is, you may be able to find everything that you need from just online. So it probably took me a couple of semesters to get comfortable to the point where where I felt comfortable to not have my students buy a textbook. So, the first semester I just supplemented, and then the second semester I supplemented a lot. And then I was teaching us, and then I had more than half of my content, that was already zero textbook cost. And I was teaching a 6-week summer school class, and then I just thought, okay, I'm just going to pull the plug. I'm going to provide them everything. It was a lot of work trying to write everything, find everything that I needed. That first course was not really that great, but that has been probably about 8 years ago now. And then every semester I would just make it a little better, make it a little better. And yeah, so the document that, yeah, I'm going to have to close it. The document, the planning document, should be in the chat. You could probably find it. Yeah. So,
I mean
uh,
on the ORE website. I went through
um,
some.
oh yeah. Okay. So on, um, the document, let me, it's in this document right here. Do you have this one open?
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, so just starting with this one right here
Yeah,
is
I
where I
went
see.
through there.
Okay, okay,
But once you got into the
so
website, I lost track of where you were at.
okay, so up here on resources
Okay.
and then curated OER collections, and then this link right here, OER by discipline,
Got it. Thank you.
and then you'll just scroll down to the psychology page.
Okay. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and so if you're looking for intro to psych, which I believe that's one that we were talking about yesterday, then you can just kind of start, um, clicking, and there are lots of options for that intro to psych. Let's see. And then one thing, Julia, for English, for English C1000, I think that the rhetoric books, there are a lot of choices for transfer level English. Maybe it's, almost like a little overwhelming. And I think on Tuesday we were talking, and Darby Cogburn, she also teaches English, and she mentioned that it's just overwhelming to look at the number of resources for our transfer level English now. They have a lot of books. Um, to narrow it down, I would just kind of start opening things up. And, you may like the way that, like this textbook, maybe that, like you may like the way that it talks about this one certain uh aspect of the course, and then maybe, so you might use a couple of chapters from that textbook, and then going to a different textbook, you might use another couple chapters or even a couple pages. And then, there's lots of free stuff that you can find online as well. So I think that you probably don't need to, use a book like one of the rhetoric readers.
Yeah.
However, for, you might still want your students to purchase a novel, for example. And,
Mm-hmm.
in that case, I mean, they're really, what are they going to be, paying like 10, $15, right? They can probably buy it, find it on Amazon for even cheaper than that. So if that's the direction that you want to go in, I completely support that. I think it's really important for us to be, for our transfer level English, for us to be giving our students lots of reading material. So don't feel guilty about that. If you're reducing their overall costs from, you know, 50, 75, or $100 down to like 10, that is definitely a win for students.
Thank you.
Okay, and I'm going to set my alarm for another 5 minutes and just let you kind of work through some of this stuff. If you have a question, you can type it in the chat. You can go ahead and unmute and just ask me, and then we'll um, talk again. I'll be quiet for 5 minutes. Hi, Brandon. I see your questions, and I'm gonna put the stuff in the chat again
Thank you.
and then answer your question. So I can't do two things at once. So let me.
I'm actually presenting tomorrow on this to a bunch of music teachers, so I'm trying to find good places to
Yeah,
send
I
them.
will be. You may or may not know this, but I will be at your department meeting.
Oh, right.
Talk about RSI. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, fun. Yeah, okay. And so the answer to that is no. The the answer is a another repository or referatory. It's called Cool for Ed.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so they don't share stuff.
Um, they might. I don't know what the process is now for the OERI. They used to only post materials that they had a hand in curating,
Okay.
or sorry, developing themselves through their own grants. But I think now the push is going to be for everything to be on Cool for Ed, which already is an existing referatory, but it is going to have everything for the ZTC grants will be listed there. So it doesn't quite have a lot now, but by the end of 2026, it will be thousands and thousands of materials.
Right. Okay.
So yeah, so that's where everything will be. And if you post your materials on Canvas Commons, it will be like a link to those materials but they're going to be housed on Canvas Commons, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. I still owe a $13 health fee for those 2 classes I took at Reedley.
Don't pay them. Don't pay them. Don't pay them until you want to sign up for your next class. There's no late fees. That they don't charge any fees. Don't pay them. Okay. Okay, so I know that you're looking, you're searching, you're maybe finding stuff, maybe not finding stuff. But I do want to kind of stop you right now and just talk about, the experience of trying to go through that. I know it's not nearly enough time. We can spend hours and hours on each of these steps. But I just want to see if anyone has anything to share about what worked for them, anything that was surprising or that was difficult. Go ahead and you can type it in the chat. You can unmute and just start talking. Yeah, and there's going to be a lot to go through. And Julia, one thing I would suggest for English is see if you can find someone else in the department who also has a zero cost course or uses OER materials, and just ask them what they use. Because yeah, there's a lot of different books for C1000 now, for English C1000.
Sally, I have a question.
Yeah.
So one of my health science classes is actually Red Cross based, but of course, Red Cross is lock and key. But if you go on their website, students that take a Red Cross class have access to the free quote unquote PDF textbook. What is the fine line between being something illegal, meaning like, oh, I have the whole textbook for you, without them officially saying, yes, you can use it?
Yeah, so you might you know um so if it's a copyrighted material, which that textbook will be a copyrighted material,
Yes.
then you cannot legally distribute that to students.
Okay.
Now there might be some cases where you can pull like bits and pieces, but it would be very difficult, and um, be very difficult to justify that.
Right.
Is there, let's see, yeah, is there a way to buy like that type of material without taking the course? Maybe like a version of it that they sell, like on Amazon or online, or
Yes. The
yeah,
textbook is on Amazon. The older
yeah,
editions are on Amazon to buy.
yeah. Yeah, so and they're probably a lot cheaper. And I'm wondering if there's, the different editions, if they have anything that is 100% necessary. You know what I'm saying? So like
Right.
to encourage your students to buy the older edition if the updates are just, not enough to justify paying the full price for the new edition.
Yeah.
That's one way that you can get around having them do that. If you try to go through the Follett bookstore, um, it's it's going to be more expensive. They're always going to
Yes.
charge more than students can get it online. However, it might be more convenient for students, especially if they're in a program where they have a textbook voucher for the bookstore. It might be more convenient for them to buy their materials through the bookstore.
Okay.
So in that case, what I would do is give them the both options. So to, have the textbook ordered through the bookstore for students who, that's the they have a voucher and they can purchase it that way. And then say, well, if you don't, then you can then just buy it online, and here's the cheapest link, and do the research for them to try to buy the cheapest link and tell
Yeah, they
them,
can rent it too.
yeah,
Also, I've
yeah,
noticed.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So in that case, I think it would be really difficult. Now I'm just kind of thinking about like, um, is it 100%? Because for some, especially from some medical courses, is it is it really like that information that's in that book? Is that needed for them to pass their boards or anything like that?
No, because it's called responding to emergencies, and at the end they can get adult and pediatric certified if they wanted to. It's not a requirement.
Okay.
But it's a requirement for them to take the course for kinesiology and health science, but they don't have to get certified.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times they have struggle with getting the book right away. So forgive me for saying this, but I provide at least the first two chapters for them to get their books because
Yeah.
they were dying, they were struggling.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and
And so yeah,
yeah,
so I'm wondering if like you could even find like some replacement. This would be like a long, a longer process, but if you could
Right.
find replacement, articles from the library,
Okay.
or news, like things that you can find in like journals, or anything, like that. Let's
Okay.
see. Um, yeah. Yeah, so I personally, and I don't mind saying this and being recorded and saying this, I personally would try to avoid the bookstore. The bookstore is they're pretty predatory in their
Yes.
practices. And so, if you can just, if you can bypass it altogether,
Okay.
that is something that I would recommend.
Okay.
But maybe, like the first week of class, having the conversation with students about, like if anyone needs to buy it through the bookstore, go ahead and do that. Now, and then you might have students coming with different editions, which might be a little challenging, right? Because
Yeah.
like page 65 is not the same page
They had done that
65.
too, and I'm like, oh shoot.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
yeah.
Thank you.
Um, but like if you can kind of anticipate that and kind of go, okay, well, we're gonna go to the chapter that says, that's called this, and in some editions it's here, and some editions it's
Okay.
here. Then that might work out too.
All right. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, yeah, and we are right at 12 o'clock. I don't mind sticking around for a few minutes for anyone else that has other questions. Um, let me just go through this. Yeah, so just continue to build your blueprint. It is a long process again. But one of the things that you can do is just go, like semester by semester, do a little more updates each semester, a little more refining. And then I do have the information for your OER leads. And I'm going to put in the chat one last thing, and that is the PowerPoint for this session that I just went through, so that you have all the links. Okay, yeah. So that's it for me for today. Unless you have any other questions, then I will see you around in workshops, RSI, blah, 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 the whole thing. Yeah. Yep.
Actually, Sally, I do have a quick question.
Uh-huh.
Um, you were saying for the objectives, because I have 16 objectives, um, which correlates with the lecture, but you were saying that it's not always realistic to teach to my 16 objectives.
So yeah, so let me take a look. What is your course?
Health one, contemporary health issues at
Okay, and
City College.
so it's like health, like that, like health one. Let's see here.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, here we go. Yeah, so the all of these objectives, you are required to address them in your when you're teaching your course.
Actually, sorry,
Now,
that you
yeah,
typed up English, or it's a looks different.
this one right here.
It's health
Oh,
one.
is that 11? Yes, 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 yes.
I
Not.
think it's towards the bottom.
Okay, here we go. Okay. 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 Oh yeah, that's a lot of objectives. Okay. So eventually this is what you're going to want to, you're required to teach all of these things to your students.
Yes.
One of the things that you can start doing is just, going like one by one, and taking a look at any of the materials that you already have. Is this one covered by those materials? What exactly are they? And in that planner, you can, what I would encourage you to do is, even like if they're digital materials, get the URL, just copy and paste it in there. So you have a record of where they all are
Okay.
correlated with the objective. And then just go through, one by one. Probably I would think that you're going to be finding materials that cover multiple. So, like
Yes.
this one might be like, this particular book and it's, chapter 3. And
Right.
then this one might be the same book and this is like the last pages of chapter 5 or whatever.
Right. Okay.
So, it is like like a little bit of work to kind of, like do like the mapping. But once you have all of that kind of listed, where you have like your objectives lined up with where you can find that information. And then, and then some of this stuff, maybe you cannot find any OER materials that cover it at all. So at that point, now you're going to the library, you're going to, website searching on websites to see if you can find that information. If you can't, then maybe you just need to write like a little article, make a little video yourself, right?
Okay.
And just kind of go like one by one. And so, yeah,
Okay.
so what I would suggest to you is take a look at these. This is not my discipline, so I'm not familiar with this, but take a
No,
look
right.
at these. Do like the easy pickings first. Do the ones that are going to be like easiest to find. Start with those. And then if this is not something that you can do, and probably it's not because this is a lot. If it's not something that you can do for your class in the spring, maybe you can make a goal of like having this ready for a summer class if you teach summer or a fall or your
Yeah, I'll be
fall
teaching
class.
it this coming summer, and
Yeah.
I found the book. Michael Mendrin actually found OER, and so he did it last semester or a year now, and he's like, check this out. And so I'm going to transition into the OER textbook that he uh, showed me to, and then I'm going to contact the author and just introduce myself and let her know that I found it and it's a great book. So
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. And so, at that point, like, because I'm a little bit familiar with that book. Michael worked on that through a grant a few years ago. And so, using that is kind of like your main text, and then seeing like like from these objectives, can you cover everything that are covered in these objectives just by using that textbook? And
okay,
then and then at that point, like if there's anything that you can't, there's any missing material, any gaps, then kind of going out. And I know that that author Kelly, I can't remember what her last name
yes,
is, but yeah, she she's very open to collaboration.
yeah,
Um, Typically, like when someone publishes an OER book, they put more um more content in the book than you could possibly teach, because the idea is that you want to make it easy for faculty who are teaching across systems, across different colleges, even different parts of the country, to be able to use it. So you're probably like there's probably going to be information in there that you wouldn't teach, you won't need to teach.
okay,
So yeah, thinking about that. And I do believe that it is a goal, it is better to try to only teach what is in your COR.
okay,
And instead of like, oh, well, there's this information in this book. It's not really covered on my COR, but I'm just going to introduce it to my students just to like take up time. No, don't do that. Don't do that. Because more
okay,
work for them, more work for you, and just not good for anybody. But the
okay,
great thing about OER is you can actually take like two different books, and you're not charging students any money at all, but you can take like 3/4 of this one quarter of this one, combine it together, and then, you have like everything that you need in your course.
So
Yeah.
can I take the previous textbook that's not OER and uh, copy and paste stuff, or I obviously I would have to somehow.
Yeah, no, you're
No, you
not
can't.
supposed to, yeah, you're not
Okay,
supposed to be doing that. You can provide, your lecture notes,
okay,
write PowerPoints, articles that you write. You can put your like, kind of rough lecture notes into like Chat
okay,
GPT and make it sound more professional. You can do that kind of thing. But yeah, if you have like a digital copy of a textbook that's a commercial textbook that students are supposed to be purchasing, then legally you're not supposed to do that.
Hey, okay, perfect. Thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate all your
Okay.
great advice. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Kenneth, do you have any questions? Okay. Okay, then I am going to go ahead and end it right now. Have a great day. Okay.